back again. This is part two, and I was talking about that horrible tragedy in Arizona, as well as, this happens with some frequency. It's not that unusual. It's just a matter of when is it going to happen next. Now let's just say that the college. Let's just pretend like for the moment it's in Virginia. Okay. Let's just say that one of the administrators, the teachers in the college said, "Hey, let's get this guy evaluated." And let's just assume someone from emergency services went out and evaluated this person. And let's just say that it was determined that this person met the criteria for basically further evaluation in a psychiatric hospital. They go in the psychiatric hospital. The psychiatrist sees them. The guy has all this paranoia and everything. I can almost guarantee that somehow they're going to get some medicine in him, an antipsychotic of some kind, and then there'll be a hearing. Now, when the guy shows up at the hearing, if he is somewhat with it, if you will, then the outcome would most likely be one of two things. If he's with it enough that the judge doesn't think he needs further treatment, then the case would be dismissed and he'd go about his merry business out there. If the judge felt as though the person had the capacity to volunteer and it was felt as though he needed further time in the psychiatric hospital, then he would be allowed to volunteer. Now, once that person is discharged from the hospital, and I'm repeating myself, I'm sure, there's no controls. In other words, there's no way to follow behind this person. And actually, you would most likely have some advocates for the mentally ill who would say, hey, you can't, regardless of what you think, you can't follow this person around. That's harassment or what have you, because the mentally ill have their rights also. As far as the mental illness that this person is exhibiting, and I think it's all there for us to see. Sometimes people have what's generally called fixed delusions, and these are delusions that are going to be there no matter what happens, no matter how much medication you give them, no matter how much counseling you give them. Nothing will get rid of these so-called fixed delusions. They have them 24 hours a day. The paranoid kinds of things, people are following me, people are after me, people are going to hurt me, the mafia is after me, the FBI is after me, and everybody is following me, and things like that. Sadly, that's, is not that unusual to have those kinds of things going on. One time I evaluated a lady who was in her late 60s or something. And she was flying all over the country trying to get away from all of these people who were following her. Which the sad thing is even if you try to use reason and logic, you normally are not going to do anything about the delusions. For instance, in this particular lady, I said, in other words, everybody on that plane's following you? Yes. Well, let me ask you this. You didn't broadcast to anyone that you were going to get on a particular plane at a particular time. So how is it all of these people who are following you could have also gotten a ticket at the same, to be on the same flight? In other words, normally that type of reasoning doesn't work. And a delusion is 99% of the time is real for the person who is having it, period. And there's no sense in, normally it's no sense, and you'll get nowhere by trying to show the obvious false logic, or whatever term you want to use, about the delusion. Occasionally, folks have some grasp of the mental illness, occasionally, and when they're in these kinds of states, and some of them rare, extremely rare, might say, gosh, is this my mental illness? And they may start questioning that. But normally on a delusion, that's it. Whatever they think, that's it. It's just, that's them. And it makes no difference how bizarre it is. That's what they think. That's what they believe. And that's what they act on. One of the questions I occasionally would pose to some of these folks during the interview, especially the ones who are being followed and feel like people are after them or the government is after them, or so-and-so is trying to do this to them, is, you might say something fairly benign like, gosh, if people were following me and after me and trying to harm me, boy, I would be really upset. How does this make you feel? To try to get some idea of, where they are as far as, gosh, are they going to start striking back, because they perceive that people are after them and trying to harm them, people trying to take their money, people poisoning their food. It's another thing, which is not unusual at all. Some people will not eat anything unless it comes out of a can, because they say everybody's trying to poison them. They're real picky about their food. So I guess the real question is what can society do, if anything, to avoid more tragedies like this? In other words, let's say this young man, here again, using this young man here, he's detained, he goes to the hospital, he comes out. What's changed? Nothing really. You got him off the streets for a few days, but that's it. Now, assuming that the medication would help him, meaning would minimize these thoughts he's having, these delusions, or whatever term you want to use, assuming that would happen, he still has to take it. And also, for a lot of the mentally ill, they don't like the side effects of a lot of these medicines, even though it may do them good in one respect, there may be, side effects that are hard to deal with. So I don't know. So should society have the right, when they see a young man like the fellow who murdered all the people in Arizona, does society have the right to take them off the street and lock them up, like forever, or something like that? Even though if you had like 1,000 skilled psychiatrists and psychologists and social workers and all, and they all sit around a table and say, this person's going to murder some people. Is there a mechanism? Should there be a mechanism in the law that would allow this person to be locked up forever? I had mentioned in a previous chronicle about habitual sex offenders or whomever, when they're getting out of prison, they've served their time, then some states are using civil commitment. Civil, that's what it is. When you see a mentally ill person, this is a civil action. It's not a criminal action. When you put that person in a hospital, it's civil. And some states are using the civil commitment on sex offenders because the statistics show they're most likely going to do it again. Should we be able to do that? And if we can do that for sex offenders, I'm sure we can look at recidivists for regular types of crimes like robbery and burglary and things like that. Let's say you have someone who's had 17 charges of disorderly conduct and assault and so on and so forth, and some burglary here and a robbery here, and you look at this person and you have this huge panel of 1 million people who are looking down and say, okay, what's the likelihood this person's going to do something like that again? And let's say they're all in agreement, it's 100%, just a matter of when. Do we have the right to lock that person up so that our citizens won't be beat up or mugged or whatever term you want to use? In other words, where do you draw the line? But they're all coming out now, making all their statements about what could have been done, what should have been done, but folks, the resources out there are really limited and really lacking. And I think ultimately what it comes down to is, where does the individual's rights stop and society's rights, if you will, start? And how do we determine that? I don't know. Anyway, just felt the urge to do this one, and I don't know. So anyway, you guys take care. As Pat Condell would say, peace, ladies and gentlemen, peace.